Contrary to popular belief, I can sometimes admit when I was wrong, and I most certainly was wrong about the Arizona Cardinals heading into the 2014 season. I thought this was going to be the team that brought up the rear in the NFC West, not the St. Louis Rams. I thought that Carson Palmer was going to get hurt, and the team was really going to struggle and scuffle, and as a result, they were going to implode the second half of the season. Well, that didn't happen. Well, somewhat. I mean, it's just a testament to how good of a coach Bruce Arians is and the quality of staff that they have in Arizona. The fact that they were able to lose Carson Palmer early on in the season and still manage to find a way in one of the toughest divisions in the NFL in the NFC West to finish 11-5 and make the playoffs. Now, ultimately, they met a quick exit in that wild card round against the Panthers because they were starting Ryan Lindley, one of the worst playoff quarterback starters in NFL history. But just to get to the playoffs, considering the fact of the circumstances that they were facing, speaks again as a real testament to the quality and strength of that Arizona Cardinals coaching staff. Go from 10 wins in 2013, which was a real surprise, to 11 wins in 2014, which I still think was a surprise, especially once Carson Palmer went down. And you look at the Arizona Cardinals, this is a team with a talent in a lot of places, a team that's done well by itself in recent NFL drafts. You go back to 2011, their first round pick, Patrick Peterson, one of the best corners in the National Football League. Their 2012 first round pick, Michael Floyd, has established himself now, even with Larry Fitzgerald in the fold, as the best weapon that they have in the passing game and is the number one wide receiver that they have. You look at their late round pick from 2013, Andre Ellington out of Clemson, a guy that's come in, and when he's healthy, he can produce and provides an explosive element out of the backfield for that Cardinals offense. And then you look at their third round pick in 2014. I like John Brown coming out of Pittsburgh State, but I thought he was more of maybe a fifth or sixth round pick. They took him in round 3, and they're probably glad they took him in round 3 because he was an explosive weapon for the Cardinals out of the slot in that passing game in 2014 and really brought another element to that offense. You look at this team, though, they've had some misses. They learned a very valuable lesson. Never, ever take a Virginia Tech running back high, as they found out when they took Ryan Williams in the second round a couple of years ago. Where is he at exactly? A former third-round pick like Rob Hausler, the tight end, what the hell did he ever do? He was a waste. But you look at the question marks they still have. You look back at, I think it was second-round pick in 2010, Darrell Washington. This is a guy that's a great inside linebacker in that 3-4 when he's on the field, but the problem is that he seems to be his own worst enemy, and therefore, as a result, cost himself and the team several games on the field, as he did when he missed the entire 2014 season due to suspension. So he's still a question. Very talented player, but can't seem to get right, can't seem to be right. You look at their 2013 first-round pick, Jonathan Cooper. I mean, that offensive line of the Arizona Cardinals isn't great. And this is a guy that doesn't even stand out on that offensive line. This is a guy that hasn't been very good. Yes, he was injured for 2013, but in 2014, he really didn't show much for himself. This is a guy you took at number 7 overall. You can't have him looking like a bust so soon. You look at their second-round pick from 2014, Troy Nicholas. Maybe he'll get more opportunities and more chances in 2015. And they need him at tight end, but he really didn't show me much as a rookie in 2014. Now, in terms of the offseason for the Arizona Cardinals, it was bad in the sense that they lost Todd Bowles, their defensive coordinator, to the New York Jets as he took over their head coaching job. But that was to be expected. That Cardinals defense was, again, really, really good in 2014, the reason why they made the playoffs in 2014. So it was bound to happen. I would anticipate that this Arizona Cardinals organization and their infrastructure within their coaching staff will be able to absorb that loss because of the quality of people that they have around. And they made some big moves, most notably bringing in a guy like Mike Upati to address the run blocking, in particular on the interior of that Cardinals offensive line, which has been such a big problem for them in recent years. Now you've got big money there on the left side of that offensive line in terms of guys like Jared Veld here, your big money free agent signing from last year, Mike Upati, your left guard that you brought in this year. They brought in some veterans on the defensive side of the ball, guys like Lamar Woodley, who could have a nice season in 2015 back in the 3-4, guys like Corey Redding. This is a team that wasn't incredibly active in the offseason, but they didn't really need to be. Where they need to be a little more active and where they need to be successful is the 2015 NFL Draft. Now, in terms of their biggest needs, I think what really cost this organization in 2014 is what I talked about before 2014, is the fact that they thought Carson Palmer was going to be their answer at quarterback was ridiculous, as it bore out. The guy tore another freaking ACL. You're trusting Carson Palmer, a guy who struggles to stay healthy. To stay healthy, you are just asking for trouble. And furthermore, on top of that, not only are you foolish for giving him big money and investing so much hope and faith in Carson Palmer, but you fail to appropriately prepare yourself by addressing that position of quarterback with a young, potential long-term answer. The Cardinals must find that guy in this draft. Logan Thomas most certainly isn't that guy. Drew Stanton most certainly isn't that guy. This is a big problem for the Arizona Cardinals, and until they address that quarterback position, they're a team that's only going to get to a certain level and not be able to go any further, especially if they're going to continue to count on Carson Palmer to be that guy. Good luck to you. Now, they have other needs. Obviously, running back, in particular, a big between the tackles power type of guy is a big need for the Arizona Cardinals, hence why you hear them talked about so much in the Adrian Peterson sweepstakes. And it could potentially happen where this team would end up trading for Adrian Peterson on draft day. But if they don't, there are still plenty of options in terms of running backs available in this draft, whether it be round 1 or later. So this is a position that I would expect somewhere in the first 3 rounds of the 2015 NFL draft they would address. So that way they could put Andre Ellington back in the role that they envision, which is more of a complementary change of pace scat back type of role. On defense, they could use some depth in the secondary. Now that they lost Antonio Cromartie, they need somebody better as an option opposite Patrick Peterson at corner. They could use a nose tackle to replace Dan Williams, who left via free agency, but they most certainly could use a young edge rusher. This has been a big problem for the Cardinals, is the lack of youth at the edge rush position, the lack of depth at the edge rush position. Sometimes they have to over blitz in order to generate a pass rush. They need to be able to more organically generate a pass rush with maybe only 4 or 5 rushers, and the best way to do that is to get some youth and depth and talent at that edge rush position outside in that 3-4 defense. Now, in terms of their philosophy of this draft, the Cardinals have kind of went off the beaten path the past couple of years in terms of their first round pick. Jonathan Cooper, they took 7th overall in 2013. Jury's definitely still out. Deone Buchanan, I think, is going to be just fine. Their first-round pick at safety from Washington State in 2014. But again, he was a bit of a surprise. So it's kind of hard to figure out what the Arizona Cardinals really prioritize and where they really rank players, because it seems like a lot of their picks, you look at John Brown, they took in the 3rd round, when a lot of people thought he might go more 5th or 6th round. They might value certain traits and characteristics for their fit of their system more than other teams, and as a result, they might rate players entirely different. But in terms of their philosophy, I wouldn't be surprised to see this team try to make an aggressive move up the board to go get a guy like Todd Gurley. I think Todd Gurley fits what Bruce Arians wants to do with that running back position in Arizona much more than Melvin Gordon does. Melvin Gordon could potentially be in play for them at number 24. However, if they really want that impact difference maker at running back for what they need, it's got to be Todd Gurley. Now, are the Cardinals going to be willing to give up potentially a 2nd-round pick and maybe even a 4th-round pick to move up from 24 into the 15 to 16 range to make sure that they're able to snag Todd Gurley? I don't know. This is a team that could also stay put and decide that they want to take an edge rusher. This is something that could work for them as well. This is a team that could also want to peel back, similar to what they did last year from number 20 to number 27, and accumulate some additional draft pick currency. They would be wise to do that as well. A lot of different options here for the Arizona Cardinals. If they take an edge rusher in the 1st round, I'm not going to knock them. If they sit there and took a running back in round number 1, I'm not going to knock them. If they took a corner in round number 1, I'm not going to knock them. If they took a nose tackle in round number 1, I'm not going to knock them. The biggest thing I would knock them for is if somewhere within the first 3 to 4 rounds of this NFL draft, they didn't address the quarterback position. Again, Stanton's not the long-term option. Logan Thomas most certainly isn't the long-term answer. You're just gambling and taking unnecessary risks if you're putting all of your eggs in the Carson Palmer basket. They need to find a guy, whether that's somebody like a Garrett Grayson or a Brett Hundley or a guy like Chris Bonner out of Colorado State University Pueblo, whoever the case might be. They need to find a young option, a guy that can fit what Bruce Arians wants to do on offense and have him in place and groom him to be Carson Palmer's replacement and be ready to step in and fill the void left by the inevitable next Carson Palmer injury. If they do that, and they address some of these other needs, this is an Arizona Cardinals team that could be right back in the mix again in 2015. But if they don't, and they can't successfully address some of those needs, and Carson Palmer goes down in 2015, this is a team that could see some serious regression heading into next season.